about this. But then he says, hey, look, these people are going to want to destroy this harlot. And they're going to make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them. Then he says, the waters are the people and the harlots. And then he says in verse 16, watch what happens. He explains the waters. It's just people, right? And the 10 horns which you saw on the beast, these will hate the religious. These people are religious. They hate religion, any kind. Why? Because the beast wants to be God. He can't have the people serving false religions and bowing down to other statues and other gods like Zeus and Athena and all these others, Bacchus and all these. No, 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 no. The beast says, you worship me and me alone. So he kills the harlot, religion. He sets it afire and burn her to the ground, make her desolate and naked, and eat her flesh and burn her with fire. You see what happens to the first Babylon religion? The beast says, no, you're going to worship me and me alone. Now, what happened to so that's the religious part of Babylon. So Babylon has two parts, a religious part and a material part. Here it is right here in the next chapter. Here's material Babylon. Indeed, there was another angel that came. He had great authority, and the earth was illuminated by his glory. And he cried with a mighty loud voice and says, look, Babylon the Great is fallen, has become the dwelling place of demons, a prison for every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hated bird. Bird, yes, demons, more demons. For all the nations have drunken the wine of the wrath of her fornications, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. Now, and the merchants of the earth have become rich through the abundance of her luxury. What is he talking about? He's talking about the same thing that Satan tried to get Jesus. To do what? Bow down to him. By giving him things, power and authority. That's what people want. They want riches, power, and authority, and all these things on the earth. And he gives it to them. And he calls his people out, and they do. All the people, God's people, come out. And he says he's going to mix her punishment and make it double for her. Why? Because this kind of stuff leads the people to say things like this: I sit as queen and no widow. What that means, there was nobody before me. If she wasn't a widow, what does that mean? She's God, friends, and will not see sorrow. Therefore, her plagues will come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she will be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord who judges her. And look, the kings of the earth who committed fornication and lived luxuriously with her will weep and lament for her, for when they see the smoke of her burning. Now, what is he talking about? He's not talking about there's some city that's going to be on fire. No, he's talking about all the bowl judgments that happen. The trumpet judgments and the bowl judgments, where their money and all this stuff means absolutely nothing. God's going to kill the economic system. Babylon the Great is the economic system that the Antichrist sets up at the end, where you can't buy or sell without the mark. So God says, I'm going to destroy their economy. And the luxury or the things that they receive from this economy, they're not going to be able to receive it. And that's when they're going to be all distraught, because everything that they live for is going to perish. So that's what he's talking about. And the merchants, that is all the people of the earth will weep and mourn over the economic system being destroyed, for no one buys their merchandise anymore. So what is he talking about? Again, he destroys the food supply. Destroys the food supply? Yes. He destroys the water. What? God destroys the water? He destroys all that stuff. He just calls it gold, silver, precious stones, and things. Now watch. What is he talking about? He's talking about what he did back here. What he did back here. Oh, These judgments right here, starting in chapter 16. Watch. This is what he's talking about. So the first went the bowl. Here's the bowl judgments. He gave them loathsome swords. Because why? Because they are petrifying swords in the eyes of God. So he gave them swords, and they had the mark of the beast, and who's worship him. Then he turns the seas, all of it. Now, the second angel pulled out the bowl on the sea. It became the blood as a dead man, and every living creature in the sea died. So what does that mean? That means you're not eating any more fish. Bye-bye. Any kind of seafood. Then the third angel pulled out their bowls on the rivers and the springs of water, and they became blood. Oh, wait a minute. There goes your fresh water supply. There's your rivers and the springs and stuff underneath it, where we dig wells. Bye-bye water supply. God destroys that. He gives them blood to drink. Then he had scorched them. They want to worship Mother Nature. They want to worship the earth. Look what God does. He turns up the dial or put the sun back to where it was before the fall. Look at what he did. Then the fourth angel pulled out his bowl on the sun, and the power was given to him to scorch men with fire. And men were scorched with great heat. And they turned and gave God glory, and they repented. No, they blasphemed the name of God who has power over all these plagues, and did not repent and give him glory. See? And then it was dark. So much darkness that you can feel it. And they were still in pain from the scorching. They had nothing to drink, nothing to eat. So when God says over here, back in chapter 18, where he says he destroyed her, and the merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her, for no one buys their merchandise anymore. That means no more buying and selling. No more. Forget it if you have the mark. Doesn't matter. Why? God destroyed all the water. God destroyed all the food. God destroyed all that stuff. So anything that they wanted, God says, no more. No more. Remember when the first judgments were given, God left alone the frankincense and the oil and all that stuff. No, not this time. He destroyed it all. So even if you had all the money in the world, you got nothing. Even if you have gained the whole world, for what does it profit a man to gain the whole world, lose his soul? What can you give in exchange for your soul? To God, nothing. All right, so there's Babylon. So you see two things that happen to the city of Satan. What happens? One, God destroys his religion. Two, God destroys his earthly power and wealth that he tried to offer God, Jesus, God, and offer it to men who took it. So God destroys his false religion. God destroys his so-called luxury merchandise.